I want to teach you a look that you can master on yourself, or for makeup artists, something that's going to be a money maker and keep your clientele coming back for more. So I'm going to share with you how to create flawless natural skin and a timeless liner that's super easy and will keep you in business. So we're starting off this look and we've applied some face tapes. These are actually Tamedx face tapes that have been in development for a long time. We're going to start with skin prep. So we're going in with this Tonic Comfort by Lancome. I'm using this in the place of something like a micellar water, as I find that micellar water needs to be cleansed off. This can do a good job by itself of lightly cleansing the skin, but it's also going to deposit some hydrating and soothing ingredients into the skin. It's got really high amounts of glycerin and hyaluronic acid in it, so it's going to be really great for any dehydrated dry skin. Now, once we've deposited those ingredients into the skin and given it a light cleanse, I'm actually going to go in with an exfoliating mask. Now, this is for a nighttime makeup. I would never do any intensive exfoliation and then have someone wear this during the daytime. This mask uses glycolic and lactic acid, which is going to help smooth, refine the texture, but also gently buff away dead skin cells that are building up on the skin. I use this mask a lot on myself before an event, and I love that the base of this uses a lot of different oils like grapeseed oil, blackcurrant seed oil, and cranberry seed oil, which contain a lot of antioxidant polyphenols and are so great for the skin. The downside for me would be the use of the essential oils in this formula and the fragrance. So, I mean, it goes without saying, if you've got sensitive skin, this wouldn't be the ideal option for you. Sometimes simple is best, and that's coming from someone who likes to apply 45,000 eyeshadows and different shimmers. Tons of makeup to make something effective and to show off your skill. I started with applying the NARS eyeshadow primer in the light shade, and if anyone from NARS could let me know why they've discontinued this, and if anyone has a stash that they can send me. On top of that, I'm going in with the Baked Browns 2 palette from Dose of Colors, and I'm just using 2 or 3 shades, and I'm working these in very thin layers to give definition to the outer corner and on top of the lid. I then randomly decided to put some pomade through the brows, and this can help me out with structure. And then it's time for me to remove this mask. This is an exfoliating mask I have on, so I'm just removing that first before we go back to liner. Now, this pencil isn't waterproof. It's very easy to manipulate and change. I'm going to go in with the shape first with the eyes open, getting your model to look directly ahead, and then use the pencil to trace out the shape you're after. Now, why am I going in with a pencil like this before I go in with like a shadow or something more permanent? And that's so that I can map out this shape, and then I can go in with a cotton tip and I can actually start to clean up and shape the eye without it being absolutely impossible. Waterproof and even eyeshadows can be so much harder to clean up and smudge. This way you can see I'm going in with the cotton tip and I'm really perfecting the shape, and this is going to be so much easier for you, and it's also going to take away a lot of the stress. It's important to get your model to look straight ahead and perfect the shape while the eyes are open, and then we're going to go in with something a little bit more permanent here. Now, this is how I like to apply liner on a model. Using a fine liner brush, I'm tracing over the shape that I've already created. So I already know what I'm doing, and it's just a little less pressure knowing that I'm going in with something super waterproof and I already know exactly where I'm going with it. Now, I'm not naturally gifted at doing liner. I've had to really practice liner over the 14 years that I've been doing makeups. I make mistakes all the time with liner too, and that's exactly what you can see me trying to fix here. I've gone in with another Q-tip and I've gone in and cleaned up that shape even more. Now, is this ideal, working with waterproof products and then having to change liner? No, it's not. It's absolutely painful. But from my mistakes, hopefully you can learn something. I've gone in and then applied a little bit more of that primer to cover up the smudging that I made. And then we're going back in with the same eyeshadow that we used in the beginning to perfect our outer corner blending and make everything look really seamless and beautiful. This look is made by the lashes. So I'm going to show you exactly what I did. I used Swift number 3 lashes on the outer corner. I used 2 of them. Then I blended this in with 2 Swift number 2 lashes. I like these because they look really natural and give a really wispy length, but I wanted more volume on the outer corner. So for that, I've gone in with a Swift Volume Intense. I've gone in with row number 3 on the outer corner, and then I blended that in with row number 2. And you can see that this gives the perfect custom lash that's really wispy, but voluminous on the ends. Now that we've perfected our eyes, we're going to go in with some foundation, and I'm going to try the Anastasia Beverly Hills foundation. This is one of the first times I've used this. I'm mixing the shades 160C and 320N together. I want to spend the time to teach you exactly how I color match a shade. I'm going to try it on the face and on the body, especially if someone's wearing a low neckline. And you can see here that this is showing up too yellow or too warm on the chest. So I'm going to mix in a blue color corrector, and we're going to try that and see if that has dulled down some of that yellow. And we can see here that it has dulled it down a little bit, but it's still a little bit too yellow for my liking. You can see here on the neck, and a little bit too dark. So we're going to mix in a little bit of white to lighten the shade and a little bit more blue to further take away some of that yellow and neutralize the shade. And now you can see we've got a pretty perfect match. And for application, what I'm going to do is go in with a brush and apply a thin layer all over the face. And then I'm going to get my Pro Beauty Sponge by Tamedx, a little bit of product on the sponge, and start to pat this all over the skin. No swiping, just tapping all over the skin until you get the desired coverage that you're after. It's time to bronze, and for this we're going to go in with the NARS Laguna Cream Bronze. It's just the original shade number 2, and it's actually quite a deep shade for the number 2 shade. Now, I can't stand the smell of this bronzer personally. It does do a good job, but it's not one of my favorites, to be honest. We're going in with a larger brush, and the reason I picked this bronzer is because it does go on quite sheer, and when you use a larger brush you can get quite a sheer coating of it all over the skin. And what we're doing with this particular look is we're going for an overall bronze look, and then what we're going to do in a later step coming up is we're going to go in with a contour. And for that, we'll use a smaller brush. So we're going in large to create an overall bronze cheek, forehead, and underneath the chin. And you'll notice that I'm using the brush, and then I'm going in with the sponge after. Now that sponge still has a little bit of the foundation and all of those other products we've used. So it's really going to help blend that bronzer into the body. We're bringing it down the neck and onto the body. And this is just going to give us a really beautiful bronzy look. We're not so much carving out the face or contouring at this stage. We're really just getting some color, and we're bringing in some of that chest color into the face. Customizing a blush is one of my favorite things to do, and I really like to add in ingredients that are going to help filter and blur the skin. Cheeks are normally that area that have a lot of texture to them or open pores, so adding in ingredients like this into a matte blush is really going to help boost not only that sheen and glow to the skin, but also help blur and disguise any texture that's sitting on the cheeks. Now I'm using a product here by Eyeliner, which has sadly been discontinued. I think I actually cleared them out of all their stock when I knew they were discontinuing this product, but so many brands are releasing these filtered focus products. Think along the lines of Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless Filter. It's also a great way to customize the pigment in your blush. If a blush is too pigmented for you and just looks crazy on your cheeks, mix in a filter and it's going to apply a lot more sheer, and it's much more manageable. The second way you can get more use out of your liquid blush is I'm actually going to use it as a slight color corrector before we add concealer. You'll notice throughout my applications that I'm always going back in with my sponge. This is the best way to reduce any kind of cakiness on the skin, and the type of sponge does matter. The softer the better, and these sponges are by Tamedx. These are the Pro Beauty sponges. I'll go out on a limb here and say that concealer placement and application is one of the most important aspects of your makeup. If you get this wrong, it can make a beautiful, soft, fresh skin look heavy and dry. Now, I've painted thousands of faces in my career, and very seldom have I ever come across someone who's got a really oily under eye. Some people may produce some oil under the eye, but not enough to skip using hydrating concealers and products under the eye. Where I'll turn to a more matte full coverage concealer is if someone doesn't have many lines or wrinkles or texture under the eye, and I don't want to cake on too much product and I want that really flawless matte under eye look. Otherwise, I'm going to go for a concealer that's got more hydrating properties. I'm also going to use moisturizer under the eye before I apply it, and that's one of the main reasons why I like to do eyes, skin, contour, blush, and then leave concealer right to the end so I can clean everything up, and then I can go ahead and apply my concealer. How I apply a concealer depends on the ingredients. Wax and oil-based concealers I apply differently to silicone-based concealers. I've left the rest of the blending in full, so I'll see you back in a moment for some contouring. Okay, so like we mentioned in the bronzer step, we're going to go in with a separate contour. This one's by Pink Honey, and we're using a smaller brush. This brush is by Peaches, and this is a denser brush. So reminder, we're only going to be stippling this product on. We're not going to be going and buffing it around the skin because that will move the bronzer placement and the foundation underneath. You'll notice that I'm going much more precise with this placement. The bronzer was more all over, and this is going to be more specific. So we're using this shade to sculpt the face. So we're using it under the cheekbones, on the temples to push those back, and we're going to go down the nose. You'll notice that as I do this, I go between the brush and the sponge, and that's so that we can have everything super well blended in. Okay, so now that we've done the contouring step, what we're going to do, and I love doing this, is we're going to use what's left on our bronzer brush, and we're going to use that to make sure there's no stripes of contour down the side of the face. There's nothing worse than seeing someone contouring and it's just a line down the side of the face. So we're going in and blending over that, just lightly tapping over the top, and then it's time for powder. So we're using the Givenchy, the pink shade, I believe it's number 2, and we're buffing this into a Tamedx powder puff. This uses a special microfiber fabric, and this is going to deposit the right amount of powder. Now, you'll notice that when I apply the powder, you don't see a big chunk of powder going on the skin. And that's because we don't want to be baking. We just want to set the makeup. You can see from side to side the difference that makes. Now, this is important to do in terms of longevity of the makeup. I like to do a light set before we go in with any other powder products. We're going in with this Hourglass powder, and we're using this on a really loosely packed brush. This is an old Morphe and Jacqueline Hill brush, but I know that my Kitco does a similar brush to this. It's not super dense, it's a super long brush, so it doesn't pick up a lot of product, and we're able to very lightly go over and buff the skin. The only time you'll see me kind of in a slightly more buffing motion is when I'm using one of these lightly packed brushes, and that's because it's not going to disturb any of the makeup underneath. We went in with an LC bronzer just then in the shade medium, and now we're going in with the Anastasia brow, the Precise Brow Pencil, and this is in the shade Granite, and this is actually super dark, so we're going super light strokes, mainly focusing on the outer corner to create some depth. You'll notice that Katie has quite dark hair, and I always go on the hair color to help me decide how dark or how deep we want those brows to be. I actually can't remember what lip liner this is. I think it might be an LC one as well, but it's a nude brown. I know something like Makeup Talk from Morphe would be a good option as well. And I'm using this Kylie, one of her tinted lip balms, and I could not find the shade name for the life of me of this shade. It's like a mauvey dark brown, and I'm using that just on the center to blend that lip liner in. We're going for a super nude lip here. And there you have it, the perfect skin first look with a timeless liner ready to use on yourself or your clients. Now, if this has helped you level up your makeup game, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and share it with fellow artists who could use this technique to grow their business. Until next time, stay inspired and keep creating.